Good morning, afternoon, evening, people of the world. Today I'd like to broach the subject of dreams, visions, and supernatural experiences relating to amnesia. Um, when I was young, I had a lot of repeating dreams, a lot of them around water and around being caught underwater, and lots of dreams about trying to defend myself and everything working in slow motion. And one particular dream when I was young, which was a recurring one, was we're in a two-story house on the side of a hill, and had this dream that there was ghosts downstairs, and when I went upstairs to where my parents lived, there was crocodiles, and that one happened a few times, and that was interesting. The other one I had a few times was of me having to go down through that house, through the top floor, through the bottom floor, through the cellar, and into the earth, into the lava, to go and save my brother and mother. And the whole bit, pressing the green button so the elevator went down and all that sort of stuff. And once again, these are the things that don't get spoken about because there's no real place to put them, but they're held in escrow for some future understanding, which I later found. My dreams ended about the time I went to boarding school. I suffered a lot of insomnia after that point, and melanin count was very down, and that time asleep is really important for soul recovery and reconnection to original self. And so I was missing out on a lot of that. There was a lot of purposeful interruption of sleep, which ended up putting me in a loop of hypervigilance. The body was always concerned that sleep was a point of insecurity, and I wasn't able to protect myself from whatever it was. But during these times when I was younger too, I'd have a lot of sensations while I was awake, because I had two big full glass windows behind me, top to bottom, and I'd lie in bed, and I'd be down there a lot by myself, and I'd ask them to keep the light on and not shut the door because I was obviously already freaked out. And I'd feel this presence behind my head, and I knew by instinct not to look. Something about knowing this sort of stuff by feel, and but having a bit of an understanding of what this thing looked like, and it looked like a 1940s man in the top hat and the cape and really white face, and so that was another one that I just lived with and accepted. And funnily enough, when I was about probably 6 or 7 years old, what actually freaked me out was I was watching television, and there was a skit on television with a guy that looked exactly like this guy, and I went into paroxysms because all of a sudden what I'd kept in my subconscious had appeared in front of me on television, which was probably my first experience of techno sorcery. And I had a couple of them with Doctor Who too. It really freaked me out. But so basically my senses were peaked around reading environment, and I was pretty good at it. But it's a language that you learn in silence, and it's for silence. It's for peace. It's to avoid things more than anything. And Yeah, so yeah, I had quite a few interesting experiences with the supernatural. I did end up with some young people when I was probably 14 or 15 growing up, and these fools brought out the Ouija board and had a bit of a play with it, and I'm always sensitive to this spiritual stuff, you know. I didn't know why, and now I do. But playing in that liminal world it's not good. And so anyway, they play with the Ouija board, and they set the Ouija board on this young girl who was in the room with all the doors shut and the windows shut, and the candle blew out, and she freaked out. And I felt the hairs raise at that point. I was, you know, pretty on high alert. And the last message on the Ouija board was glass. I ran out to appease this poor girl who'd been freaked out by the experience, and I don't blame her. And her name was Susie. And so anyway, that night, I'm lying in bed. I was sharing a room with another mate, and he was dead to the world asleep. And I saw the door open with nothing there, and I was basically in a cold sweat up against the wall, speechless. Also in full awareness that this other guy couldn't feel anything. And then upon uh, facing whatever this thing was, or accepting its presence, it abated, and then all of this glass smashed outside the window, and people from the other villas came out to have a look what it was, and there was no glass anywhere. I got up in the morning, and my other spiritually sensitive friend actually said to me, "Don't do that to me again, mate. You know, you freaked me out coming into the room." I said, "It wasn't me, mate. It happened to me too." I said, "You didn't see me, did you?" He said, "No, I thought it was you." I said, "No." So there was my verifications. So I sort of had to get used to this experience. And what I've learnt through my studies is that when a child's traumatized hard, the soul will fracture and the aura opens, and whatever is left in a void is filled by something. And my whole existence was filled with the static of ambient abuse. It seemed like a program. In fact, it was a program. It seemed very artificially intelligent between those people, but very cohesive. And yeah, so I had to sit with this language, with this vibrational understanding of what was going on, while also knowing that if I spoke about it, I'd be indentering myself to the judgment, the questioning, and also probably back then it would have been significant of the fact that I was more aware than they thought I was. But I went through stages in early high school where I'd hear my mother shrieking at me from the playground, and to actually turn around to see if it was real. And so there was auditory hallucinations, and I don't believe that that was a psychosomatic situation. I think that that was pretty indicative of the magic involved with the narcissistic abuse and whatever else they were involved in. Had basically tethered me to them, to their energy, and tethered theirs to mine. So every time I felt worse, they felt better. So it was a bit of an incentive for them to create many situations in which I'd be adrenalized through futility, knowing exactly what was going on but not being able to say anything. else was there? A few incidents up at the farm of cars rocking outside on the driveway, and me going out, walking around the car, giving it a rock, seeing where the squeak is, going back in, going to bed, hearing it start again. And to tell you the truth, I just learned to ignore this sort of stuff when it went on. I think in hindsight it was wise not to pay too much attention to it. The visions during my trip in South Africa were something else, and this is where I really started to understand the language of symbolism, and also the soft look at things rather than the logical approach, the look through the liminal. And over 20 or so ceremonies, I accrued a lot of visions and a lot of stuff that I needed to process. And I didn't really know where to start with this one, because this was a bootload of the breaking of amnesia through symbolism. And I had to learn to interpret these visions. And that took me probably a good 7 years to work through those visions. And strangely enough, and this is the other side of the magic of the darkness, is that as I was searching, right as I got to the point where I'd finished the last vision or the last interpretations, a shaman from the very small town that I'd been to, that I'd been called to out of the blue, and just went into the jungle. And so the shaman from exactly the same town had turned up, and I thought, well, now must be time again. So interesting on the positive side how synchronicity works in the positive and the negative. And so much of the negative has been, and this is a bit hard to understand, but when we're talking about frequency and we're talking about chakras, we're talking about the lower three chakras being lower energies, being primal, fear, desire, power, self-protection, all that sort of stuff. That's a pretty low vibration, and in my understanding, for me, I'm meant to be in a higher vibration, and when I'm in that lower vibration and held there by experience and repetition and incidents, I'm inclined to look wounded to energetically, and I'm inclined to attract those who would want to challenge me. Yet at the same time, I will intimidate people who are possibly softer, but there's more affect of my energy upon them, and I'm less inclined to engage because I don't want to offend energetically. But yeah, back to this energy thing, and this was the solar plexus thing. When you're in that lower level energy, you're drawing in less light, and you're putting off a vibration, is what I've found. And it will draw a like vibration in the predatory and in the prey. So neither forms of company are really going to be advantageous to growth. And that was another reason that I decided to jettison what was left of my social life, was that I was never the person I was meant to be. And with all due respect to those people, they were who I was programmed to be with, and at the end of the day, they were keeping me in a low level vibration through the want, again, to belong. And that got really boring for me after a while. The visions. Yes, well, the visions and the time afterwards, it took me a long time to fully accept this stuff, and I say everything that I say with knowing, not with belief about what happened, because I've put myself through the fire, through the crucible of my own judgment around this, and the evidence that's been provided and that's been found by me, and the abnegation of responsibility for my feeling state as a child by firstly my caregivers and then myself, and then without any blame, society as a whole. Um, yes, it's very silencing, and speaking about the spiritual side of this whole thing is, it's confronting for me because I know I'll get a lot of judgment, and I don't really care because no one else has experienced it, and if they have, they know what I'm talking about. So my goal and my understanding through this experience is that while I've been in an amnesic state, I've been drawing these people in, and they've been attaching to me energetically, and without my knowledge. So I ended up with a stack of reprobates that I hadn't detected, and in order for me to clean my body, to clean my temple of the toxin, they all had to go, and it was a pretty organic process actually. Of course there was a lot of ego around change and am I doing the right thing, and but that's pretty well standard for me when I'd lived in my head. So this was a feeling, this was me getting honest with feeling, and following through so that I had the space. Yes, I still don't dream very much, but the dreams that I do have are quite epic. I still have probably more visuals meditating than I do sleeping. Um, but to be able to piece together all these disorganized parts through different senses away from the head, and to actually make sense of these things, and to feel in my body the correction and the release of the unconscious stress that I've carried my whole life around this huge question mark of why do I feel this way, and why has nobody poked a head in and seen if I was alright. It's quite the phenomenon. So I've become, it's shaped my personality to a great degree, in that I didn't know how to ask for help, and now I don't even know how to do friendship because I don't think I've really understood that or many of the other base experiences in a genuine state. So it's actually something to look forward to, but it scares me because I've reached 54 and I have to build a personality, or regrow my personality, or grow my personality as a sovereign being. And yes, very lucky that, even in my times of abusing alcohol, which I've done a bit of, having come from alcoholics, instead of drinking with people, I chose to sit and drink by myself and pull the walls down, and that was honestly the start of my recovery. I'd have to pull myself into the slightly amnesic state so that I could be honest with myself. But it actually worked. It really did. And I know a lot of people have a judgment about that too, but they don't live in here. And only I know what will work. And sometimes, as I've said to people, you ride your bike into a thorny hedge and you sit there for a while because it hurts and it's not an easy pull out. And if you do it too quick, you're probably going to hurt more, but you are going to have to do it. You're going to have to come back out the same way you went in. So yeah, that's why the alcohol and joy recently in connection for me has been a bit of an overload, because and it's not like I'm wailing drunk or anything. It's the chemical war of positivity attempting to overcome the stasis that I've been in. And I know that it's relative to the interpretation that I was given that was love, that was also attached to mind control and sexual abuse. So when I get close to intimacy, my body is re-instigating that trauma state, because love has been congealed with that which shouldn't have happened. And the moment I feel it, my body goes into dysfunction, basically. So essentially, in what I was saying in yesterday's video, in them knowing that love is the cure and love is the exposure, this program that they've imparted in me has set in part in me, if I love, I'm going to go into that state again. So it's a inner space job, while being in outer space, while not understanding the space, while knowing it's exactly the space you need, and the organism is bucking against it from still closed heart, closed creativity around genuine covalency, genuine sharing and love and respect and honor. I have so many circuits that I have to tend to before or during and after, in the hindsight of understanding how I was managing myself while having two experiences at the same time, one being the one in front of me and one being a very charged historical fog, which is preventing me from exactly what I need to rejoin the village and recover. Another one I had recently was after that healing I did on myself a couple of years ago. I finally thought to myself, after another long stay, studying, repeating the most simple things over and over and over and over again, like 100 times, going, this is ridiculous, this is logical, but it will not go in. So I just kept doing it, and eventually, after my breakdown, thought I'll go up to a party in the bush, and sure enough, went into town, saw a lady who I knew, probably one of one. Said, what's on tonight? She said, there's a party on tonight. Great. Grabbed a ticket, went up there, met a beautiful German lady. When I first walked in, I was feeling a bit in myself, and she was extremely beautiful, and we were talking really well, and all of a sudden, when she's going down to get changed, I'm in paroxysms all of a sudden around what is this, and how do I manage this, and because I'd been programmed that showing emotion was a problem, and also I'd learnt not to praise people's physicalities. And so anyway, she came back up, and it was interesting because she actually grabbed my hand and pulled me into the dance floor, and that's as good as done for me, but not for me. Because I didn't know how to attach. And I said to her, listen, I can't talk in here, I've got to go back out. And I went outside, and she came and talked to me for a second. I went to walk back in, and I felt like I hit this force field. It was palpable. It was more than psychological, and it threw me out of my body and straight into my head, and there was a world of argument going on inside me at that point, with the program winning, to the point which I reneged on that situation and felt horrible for myself and her. Not even had her friend come up to me during the night and say, how you going? And I just couldn't be honest. And that's when I became really scared, because I knew that it was more than just the damage inside me that had caused this repulsion to women and love. And it was something that I tried to broach with my mother a few times when I was younger, to no avail, because everything was worse for her. Always is. You know, she survived everything and everybody. Anyway, narcissism. Minimizing another person's torture because they're the torturer. And if their story's worse, then what are you whinging about? Which means, subliminally, it could be worse. See? Yeah. But yeah, I've still got stuff trapped in me that women have done to me sexually and bodily, which I can't dig up. And I know this has some form of witchcraft potential in it. And so my goal is to, as I say, be courageous so that I can remember what love is outside this body, and to feel acceptance from society, having walked around with this projected shame all my life that I couldn't announce, and actually feel happy being the confident person and the able person that I am, without the rear vision, without this constant plaguing of what has been, which has been solid and consistent. And beyond all that, coming out of the mind and the story, I'm having to constantly remind myself in my body that I'm safe, to relax, that every time I'm pushing myself to do something, I'm going back into that low vibrational state of lack, which is where they want me, which is where I never grew and where I work 4 times as hard. We're stopping and feeling what's happening inside, and feeling the machinations of one's own mind in reaction to these sensations, and understanding mechanism, and seeing mechanism more than emotion and thought, while understanding the investment of emotion and thought in mechanism. So I catch myself going into unconsciousness of, scared of women, and I should be out there in town, and blah 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 blah. And as soon as I'm doing that, I'm understanding that I am disconnecting from feeling, while my ego sits there and says, yes, but you've said this your whole life, you never go out, you never go and be with people. Yeah. So there's the guilt, the obligation, and the fear that I've introjected, that I've sucked in from others, that I'm now ruminating on myself because I was never allowed to be at peace and calm, where all of these things come naturally. And that's why narcissism creates artificial intelligence and creates a hell of a lot of fabrication, psychologically, spiritually. The narcissist is a master dream spinner because they live in their own narrative, they live in their own dream. And if they can afford you that dream and join you in it, their dream becomes more powerful. Because the more you are believing the story, the more they're stealing your energy and breaking down your personality and skewing your ability to perceive and to step out to self-save. Yeah, so the visions and dreams are never what you think they are. And as I understand inversion now, that trip down to hell for my mother and brother was actually the trip I was taking for them and by them. And that's the sort of soft look that needs to be had to understand what the subconscious is trying to process and reveal. And when you're stuck in the logical mind, all you're going to see is the picture. So while it's not been a pleasant memory, once again I feel satisfied by the relief of knowing. And as this works, don't know if you've ever seen The Dark Crystal, but it's a great movie just right along those principles. But as the one who's been the beast of burden starts recovering, everything that was delivered starts to be returned energetically. And this is where these people will start to accuse you of what they've done, being using witchcraft, telling lies, making stories. It's a written admission of their crime projected onto you because they're now experiencing themselves and what they've done, and the fact that they've been seen. And being seen is enough. And this is where we go down the old myth of the vampire trail. Is silver bullet is the silver bullet of truth, and the sunlight is the light that exposes them, and that's why I really don't like the truth or the light. And this is again where it becomes a bit spiritual, biblical, without even being religious. None of these people that have done this to me will ever face me. Not by their own choice anyway. Because they've been seen. And because what drives them, their little assistant that came in during their trauma, or the one they invited in, needs payment. And while I was suffering, I was paying for them. And now that I've chosen to unhook, the reaper likes his toll. And there's nothing they can offer better than what they were taking from me. So they're in a bit of a pickle with spirit, with the ancestors. Yes, it's much to be seen in myth, much to be seen in all these stories, you know, and I'm still wondering why all the stories in our childhood were based around children suffering at the hands of seedy people, and why the hell you'd want to imbibe a child with Brothers Grimoire spells of fear, which indoctrinate a child to open their aura and receive the very thing they're fearful of, which has been conjured up in front of them and read out of a book by a carer. You know, when I saw the Harry Potter stuff come out, don't mess with witchcraft. Teaching children witchcraft. Yes, spells, incantations. More. There was so much of that material which is actually pulled from ancient texts than you'd believe. J.K. Rowling's a Mason. That's why she had to go through the humiliation of 19 publicists before she got the last one, because she had to kiss the ring before she got success. It's as simple as that. The same as my father, same as my father's father, same as my father's father's father. Ring kissers. Freemasons. It's the golden handshake with a little bit of sodomy on the side. It really is. Because they're invoking the dark forces to achieve their goals of power, money, fame, opulence. And when we see all this stuff in the upper end of society, and we assume that these people are the lawgivers and there's not one part of the legal system that isn't involved. As we've seen in Australia, we've got 38 sealed indictments of police commissioners, prime ministers, media moguls, sports presenters, film stars. Who else was there? Army officials. And I'm sure their entourage of international guests, because it's a game the whole world can play. If you've taken the handshake and you keep the shh, don't talk about Fight Club, where Fight Club is bloody everywhere. It's Fight Club's next to every police station in Australia. Right next door. Why? Why don't people ask these questions? Why is there a Freemasons hotel in every bloody town in Australia? Religion? Law? Alcohol? What else? Council? Government? And also those bodies that would assist in funding all of this. The shills, the recruiters, basically. Because essentially all these people are taught to be handlers, all of them. And I'd be the first to say that I didn't have parents, I had handlers. My siblings, who are 8 to 12 years older than me, were my handlers. In traffic tonight. Yeah, and it's unbelievable. And that's exactly the way they want it to be. And this is what I'm saying about amnesia in society, is that this stuff is inconceivable to the average person. It's just, they can't digest it. It's thrown up as inconceivable or improbable or unbelievable. And that's how it gets to carry on, is because when people do speak up, the majority they haven't had the depth of experience in trauma to be able to accept that level of trauma in an observational point of view. That's why people can sit there and watch Palestine and oh, the poor people, you know, but they're not seeing people get their arms and legs blown off and, you know, children, you know, being murdered. They're just hearing the words and going, oh, that's shocking, you know. Poor Palestine, stop Israel, whatever else. But that's just the macro look at what's happening in the minutiae anyway. Killing of innocent people under the guise of a lie. It works all the way through. It doesn't matter what level you look at it, from personal to global, it's the same problem. You've got psychopaths calling the shots and a bunch of traumatized people saying, oh, that's no good, or yes sir, or I can't do anything about it, or let's just hope it all pans out, or we've already won is the best one. We've already won. I like that one. Because when we've already won, we can sit on our asses, let everybody else suffer, and if it doesn't affect us, then we've already won. I'm not going to consent to that one, because I believe that bringing people back into their body is bringing them back into their power. And if there was ever a time we needed leaders, it was now. Leaders who haven't been programmed into this old style of self-perpetuating self-abuse and self-betrayal via consent from elected caregivers and non-elected caregivers, self-elected caregivers, public servants acting as tyrants. We employ them, they tell us what to do. What's wrong with this picture? You know? It's insane. And watching politicians change their policies as soon as they're elected should get punted straight away, because they've shown hypocrisy in the first move, and there's none of this, you know, it's not a totalitarian government yet, but it's looking a lot like it. Don't talk, don't speak, $3,000 fine for speaking. Speaking what? Speaking the truth. George Orwell. 1984 was a textbook. It wasn't a novel. It was a program put in 2 generations ago, which everybody was made to read, and then another generation ago they ran it through school again via the Rockefellers. And then of course they make the television, the movie, and by then everybody's so engrossed with it, while it's happening they're sitting there going, oh yeah, did you see that thing on Insta? Yeah, this is it. On that note, might be a good one to finish. Thank you people, I hope you're well, big love, ciao.